We're here. Welcome, Jess. Welcome, Pete. Welcome, Robin, to
Hello.
our Christmas podcast special.
Ho, ho, ho. How are you doing?
Ho, ho, ho. Yeah, I'm well. How are you guys? How's Manchester? How's Tewkesbury? How's Croydon?
Wet. It's wonderful here.
Wet.
Just got my wine from no name drop intended, Aldi, and everything's going well.
Fine advocate of those shops, Pete. Well done.
He got it in. He got it in.
Yeah.
Now, you can sign that endorsement now.
Yeah, Aldi endorsement. Fantastic.
Absolutely. Gents, this is awesome. What a great Jeff, thank you for organising this and saying let's do something with a few of us. It's a great idea. So obviously you guys have all got something in common, apart from drumming.
We're all idiots.
Yeah, all idiots. I don't know. Wow, that's just me.
Well,
I don't know. Yeah. Don't say anything.
Aldi.
Aldi's in common. It's to do with these guys. So let's talk about Maiden, and yeah, that's our starting point. So where are we? I know obviously we've got stuff with Blaze, and we've got stuff with Diano, and let's start with Robin. Robin, you can hit us off with your experiences with this legendary beast that is.
Legendary band and legendary singers. I mean, yeah, the fact that when you called this podcast with Jeff and Pete and myself, and it sort of took a little while, and then we sort of messaged each other around, and then one of us sort of said, hey, we've all played with all three singers of Iron Maiden, which I think is pretty unique. I mean, like you said, when you started the podcast, you said we've all got something in common. Yeah, we're all drummers, we're all rock and rollers, and but I think it's actually quite special that we've actually, all tapped in with these incredible vocalists with this band that has, no doubt, I'm taking a punt here, but probably changed all of our lives. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, my story about my quick sort of story of discovering a Maiden was when I was 13, I was on a French exchange with the school, and I was over in France, and my English mate named Mark Howard was a big sort of, typical sweaty metaler, and he had a Killers t-shirt. And I'd never seen anything so vibrant, crazy. I'd never seen a black t-shirt. T-shirts were just blue with a pumpkin on, or a shark, or red or something. Bought at a jumble sale, and this was like this crazy, the white and yellow in the hair and the axe and the blood, and I was like, wow. And I went to my French correspondent, who was called Stéphane Gonzalez, and he was this Michael Jackson freak, and he had all these cutouts of Michael Jackson around his room, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. I like Michael too, but this is crazy. And I saw this pile of cassettes in the corner of his room. I said, hey, Stefan, what's this? Oh, no, he's shit, he said. And I looked at it, and it was Judas Priest, it was Kiss, Dynasty, Iron Maiden, Killers, all on cassette. And I was like, thumbing through, going, oh, that looks crazy, these Kiss guys or whatever, blah, blah. And then I saw the Killers cassette, which I was like, ding, 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 that's my mate Mark's T-shirt. And I was like, I've got to hear what this T-shirt sounds like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I grabbed a computer cassette recorder, which was obviously the go-to hi-fi that we had back then, and took it into the bathroom, and and sat in this bathwater playing Killers again and again and again till the bathwater was cold, and the family were getting concerned. And there was a little knock at the door, and Robin, are you okay in there? I was like this, surrounded by pools of fire, going, yes, I've discovered, where we're at, and that was it. So 13 I discovered, and obviously that was Diano Killers, but that was Iron Maiden. So from there on in, it was just like, next up was Peace of Mind or whatever, and then Beast and all the other stuff, and it totally changed my life, because before that I was into pop and whatever was around in the time. I mean, I'm a big Police fan, Adam and the Ants, Madonna, Madness, Duran Duran. It's all good, it's all music to me, and those are the greatest pop music, in my opinion, and bands of the 80s. And then you discover Iron Maiden, it's a whole different genre. And then boom, after that you discover Motley Crue, Wasp, and all the Scorpions, and Dio, and whatever. And I'm sure we've had a similar kind of, you know, trajectory, if you will, how you discover stuff you discover on cassette or whatever. And so that was at 13. And so, you know, when you fast forward to 2002, I'm headlining 40,000 festivals, you know, the biggest European metal festivals, with the singer of Iron Maiden playing The Prisoner, encoring with Power Slave, you know, playing one-off Flight of Icarus in Greece unrehearsed with Bruce. What else did we do? You know, Revelations, Bring Your Daughter. I mean, absolute mind-blowing. And obviously the solo stuff was incredible as well, like The Tower, and, you know, and we did some stuff off Skunkworks. I mean, it was basically, we were sort of promoting, if you will, the best of Bruce Dickinson. You know, obviously, you know, all his hits. We did Tears of the Dragon. It's an incredible song.
Yeah, that's a cool tune.
You know, yeah, I mean, just the legacy, the songs, the power, the fact that he's just you know, just a ball of energy. You know what Bruce like? He's just fit and jumps everywhere and never stops, and, you know, walks on stage with a tea mug of coffee, you know, and rocks the house. And absolutely great. And we did it because basically, you know, like my housemate was Chris Dale, was the bass player of Skunkworks when Bruce quit Maiden, and he was a bass player of Atom Seed, you know, back in the 90s and whatever. And I'd go and see them when I was in bands, and we struck up a friendship. And then and he's got this crazy band called Sacktrick, which is like a sort of a amalgamation of crazy musicians from around, all pals, all get together and drink very heavily and come up with this insane musical sonic soup. And we go and play these crazy gigs, and we've been sort of doing a one day annual tour for about 15 years in Denmark. Right. And sometimes we do it as a 9-piece, sometimes we do it as a 3-piece. We've had 3 drummers on stage. It's insane, and it's everyone's been in it. And Bruce became a fan because he's got that kind of Monty Python, iffy boat race humor, and the Sacktrick vibe is like kind of Monty Python on stage. You know, it's very funny, and songs about camels and, you know, no, not eating tomatoes or whatever, you know, finding blue ice cream and stuff. It is insane. Penguins on the Moon, we've got a concept album. It's almost on a par with Operation Mindcrime, but it's about penguins on the moon. They get bored of Earth, and they eat some cheese up there. One of them falls in love with a microwave, and then they get bored and they come home. That's it. And so Bruce absolutely loved this, and so he'd come and see us, and he'd get on stage and sing the chorus of Blue Ice Cream at the end and that. And then one time we're playing the Kingston Peel, this little dive bar in Kingston, and Bruce comes with Yannick. Wow. Yannick Gers from Maiden. So you know, and then we're packing down at the end of the night, and I'm all sweaty, probably dressed in a, you know, leopard print jockstrap or whatever, you know, with the fairy wings and a, I don't know, whatever. And Chris comes up to me and goes, I've just talked to Bruce. He wants to put some festival headlines together. He wants a band. He wants you to play drums. And of course, I'm sweaty. I'm packing down. I'm knackered. I just want to grab a beer and get in the, you know, go home. And I'm like, nah, man, that's not even funny. Why don't you F off, you know? And he goes, Robin, I'm deadly serious. Bruce wants you and his band to play drums. And my jaw just hit the floor. Yeah. And what can you do? You know, you just go, whoa, you know, and the rest is kind of history. We did 3 rehearsals without him. We did 3 rehearsals with him. And then we got on, you know, the band got on Ryanair and went to set up Sweden Rocks. We're headlining above Motorhead. I mean, no one headlines above Motorhead. That's my other favorite band in the entire world. And he's just like, you know, I'm setting up this kit that Pearl Drums had sent me to build, and I'm building it in the wings. I'm totally engrossed, you know, getting Allen keys and tuning keys. I'm building this wonderful kit. And suddenly this almighty roar goes up, and I look up, and I realized Motorhead are on stage, and Lemmy's standing there, legs akimbo, and he goes, "We're Motorhead, and we're here to kick your ass." You know, and they went into "We Are Motorhead," and the entire crowd goes ballistic. My neck hair, like, ejaculated. You know, it just went, ah! And I just went, "Fuck me, it's Motorhead 20 yards from me, and I've got to play after them." You know, unbelievable. So I went behind Mickey D's massive Sonar kit. He's got these massive, great big stage fans. I'm just like, I'm behind Mickey D and Motorhead, watching Motorhead play, and we're going on after him. Fuck, you know. And we rocked it, and it just killed it. And then absolutely amazing. Yeah, funny story is the first gig. You know, you do for the first song. You know, like sometimes in a band, you either have an intro tape, or you do the big note, and you walk up stage, you go, blah 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 boom. And it's kind of like a bit like if you're playing a little club, it's basically a way of saying, hey audience, get the fuck in here, we're about to play. And if you're obviously on stage at a big arena thing or whatever, it's like, we're here, let's go. So we do this massive, great big note as planned. And I realized all my sticks are in the dressing room my stick bag. And I literally was just warming up like crazy. And I grabbed the sticks and someone said, right, you're on stage. And I ran and I'm like, shit. And the first song we did was like Silver Wings, and it opens with a freaking drum solo. It's like, so you're thrashing the kit, like warmed up, but you know you're never warmed up until you're halfway through the gig properly. And I'm like, if I drop a stick, I'm going to be doing this one-handed solo, and I'm going to screw the whole thing. And I was terrified. So I was like going, panicking like crazy, and I screamed to one of the mates who we got to come and help Rhodey. I'm trying to yell at a deafening volume, go and get my drumstick in the dressing room, and it goes on so long, this note, you can actually see on the YouTube footage, Bruce is going, yeah, and he's like, I'm looking behind going, why the hell has my band not kicked in by now? And everyone's looking at me and I'm going, screw you guys, I'm not going to start until I got all the full plethora of sticks. And so Mikey, this guy, runs like, I don't know, whatever, 40 yards to the dressing room, grabs his sticks, runs back and puts a couple on. I'm like, now we can start. And I'm like, okay, we're in the house, we can go. But like the first thing you ever do on stage with the first concert with the great guy, and you're like, I've screwed myself, and the rest of it was good.
How many shows did you do you reckon? How long were you in the band?
It was over a period of months, but it was only like going out and doing a big festival headline. So we did half a dozen. We did we did Wacken Open Air, which was huge in Germany, and we did one in Spain called something like Metallics or Mechanics. I don't know what it was. I can never remember that name. We did Wacken, Sweden Rocks. We did Graspop. And Graspop. Do you know the funny thing is the Graspop one was the only one that we weren't headlining, and we were on after Rob Halford, which meant we were on obviously in the afternoon rather than say 10 p.m. And I was in Rachel Stamp, which is my regular band. I've been in them for years, and that was my main band. And I was a little bit like, we weren't doing much at the time. We were kind of like, agents weren't coming up with shows, record had come and gone, and we were just sort of not treading water, but just waiting. You're in a band, you're waiting for the management to go, hey, I've got you this tour, or I've got you this single, or you're going over to Japan or whatever. Nothing was really happening. And I got the Bruce stuff, and I was like, oh man, this is amazing. And I told them, and they weren't too happy about it, because they were like, oh man, they thought, I don't know, whatever they thought, they just like kind of, it's all your fault, Robin. It's always the drummer's fault, And I was kind of deep down, I was like, look, it's not like he's poaching me, because he's in another band you may or may not have heard of called Iron Maiden. This is literally a perfect situation, because he's grabbed me. We're not doing anything, and I can go and rock these shows. It's going to be awesome. If you want to put a spin on it, you could spin it by saying Bruce Dickinson, the singer of Iron Maiden, has picked the Rachel Stamp drummer to be his drummer. You could do that in a press release and make it groovy and shove a bit of kudos to the Stamp guys, the Stamp gang. But anyway, they were a bit, niffed off. And I was like, look, it's cool. And I told the manager, he said, look, it's cool. You can go and do these shows as long as nothing clashes. And I checked the agent, nothing clashed. And then Graspop clashed with us headlining Thurrock Music Festival in Thurrock in Essex with Stamp. And we were headlining it with Skin Dread on the bill. I was like, oh man, I'm dead. I'm screwed. And then I was like, hold on, if Rachel Stamp are headlining, we're probably headlining at 10 p.m. UK time. And Bruce, thankfully, is second on Graspop. So we're probably on at probably 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. That's an hour ahead. So we'll 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. We'll finish at 6 p.m. If I take 2 hours getting home, I'm still going to take, I'm still be 2 hours before the show. I can do a James Bond. I can, I can do a Phil Collins at Live Aid. You know what I'm saying?
Live Aid, yeah. Live Aid.
I then was thinking, how can I do this? And then I was like, well, Bruce flies planes. So I took a deep breath and I phoned him up and said, Bruce, it's Robin here. I've got a little problem here. And this was before we'd played a note. We hadn't done any shows. And I was like, he's going to fire me for sure, but I've just got to do this. Otherwise I'm going to get fired from one of these bands. And I just said, look, would you possibly consider flying me and you back in a plane? And he went, oh my God, that's an amazing idea. Where are you going to play? And I said, we're playing Thurrock. Thurrock Music Festival, TMF. And he went, Thurrock, and you could see him like thumbing through an atlas that he got by the phone, because he's obviously a pilot. He's obviously got an atlas by the phone, or whatever, geographical thing, map. And he goes, oh yes, there's an airstrip by there, And I'm like, nice, yes, this is amazing. And then he started getting really into it. He goes, oh, my mate's got a medieval bomber. Why don't we do it in that? This is too good to be true. We're going to get on the front page of Metal Hammer for this, Robin and Bruce in a bomber, None of that happened, by the way. It didn't come through. I didn't get fired. And what happened is, me and Iron Maiden's management played half and half for a flight for me to come back, and Bruce came back with me too. So basically we finished, went diddle and thank you, good night, jumped off the stage. There's a bunch of well wishers and autograph hunters, steamed through them, dived into a minibus carrier with grabbed our kit bag. The rest of the band went and hung out with Rod Smallwood and got drunk and had a great time. Me and Bruce jumped in the car. We'd sweated down, in his stage shorts, and toweled ourselves off for the on the hour to Brussels airport. Got to the airport, had a beer at the bar, got on the plane, and Bruce had got a first class ticket, and I was in the knees up Mother Brown seats, And this will tell you a little insight about how amazing Bruce Dickinson is as a human. He went up and had a word with the people, and he changed his ticket and his first class rock star flight thing to be with me in the one where your knees are up by your chin.
Wow.
And he flies freaking planes, so he's got the best seat in the house at any given time, and he changed his seat to come and sit near me. So he's playing with his phone, and the woman, the stewardess comes through. She doesn't obviously know he's a pilot, and she goes, excuse me, sir, you got to put your phone away now. Obviously Bruce knows exactly when you got to put your phone away and why. I don't. Do you? Whatever. So Bruce comes up because this amazing technical jargon gobbledygook. Well, have they engaged the reverse sector thrusters in 70? Or, whatever he said was technically correct as a pilot. And of course, this woman's literally, her mind just immediately blows and evaporates. Going, fuck, I don't even know what he's talking about. She goes, I'm sorry, sir. Please just put your phone away. And Bruce just goes, okay, no problem. Puts his phone away. We fly, we land, we get out. There's a limo turn up from Sanctuary Management, or Phantom Management, they were called. And it's for me to take me along the M25 from Heathrow all the way clockwise to Thurrock. And so I'm like thanking Bruce. Oh, thanks, Bruce. You're brilliant. And he goes, fuck off. You've got a gig to play. I'm like, oh, yes, boss. And so I jump in the car and we do 100-mile-an-hour break and all the lyrics. Stamp blowing up my phone. Are you there? And I'm lying for about. I'm like, yeah, I'm just around the corner. I'm doing the eyeliner and putting my bandana on, eating Mars bars, chugging Red Bull, keeping my energy up. And then of course we overshot the junction. I'm like, fuck my life. We've got to go back, and we go all the way back and round. They're like, are you there? I'm like, yes. And so we drive through the thing. We haven't got time to get accreditation of wristbands. We just literally bulldozed through the crowd in this car. They got till the guy couldn't get any further. He said, this is as far as I go over. And I went, cheers, Charlie. Fist bumped him. Got out, ran through the crowd, jumped over the barrier. Didn't worry about going through bouncers and going backstage. Jumped over the barrier, climbed up like a stage invader, wandered up to the stage, looked at the drum kit, went, that'll do, because I got a friend to check it. Walked to the side of the stage. There's all the Rachel Stout holding their basses and guitarists, chewing wasp, like, like totally steaming me. I just went, and I was 2 minutes before we're due on stage, so I was 2 minutes early, and I just went, let's rock, and killed it. And so that was the one time we didn't headline. But anyway, just let these guys talk about.
Oh man, that's amazing.
That's
after
amazing.
That,
I have nothing after that. I have absolutely
good night, Pete.
nothing.
Good night, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks.
I'll just finish that as a fan and as a child. That the 13-year-old kid that discovered Killers, Maiden, whatever. It's still there. I still pinch myself. I'm still tripping. The fact is, like, if someone had come down and said, and I mean, this is it happened quite a few other times with other bands that I've gone and, Warrior Soul, I ran down the front to see him at Donington, and I was like, I'm better than that drummer. They would be so much better. They need me in the band. And then, 20 years later, they call you up and say, we want you to do their 20th anniversary show. And you just kind of wish that if some angel or being came down to you at that moment and told you, hey, it's all going to be good, you're going to play with Bruce Dickinson. You'd be like, but your mind would blow up and it wouldn't work. But anyway, I'm still a kid. I'm still a fan. And I think that's the most important thing. I've never gone, yeah, man, because I played with Bruce. I'm all that. It's more just like, oh my God, let me tell you this crazy story. And all because I wore some silly underpants and played in a band called Sack Trick, who knows? So, yeah.
That's amazing.
Brilliant.
What a story.
Brilliant.
It's just amazing. Just amazing.
I have nothing. I have nothing.
No, you've got the good stories because you work with Diano.
And what a better place to go to.
Okay.
Come on, Pete. Roll up your sleeves, son.
I'm not sure after that. That's this is going to be a bit of a come down, I think, after Robin.
What was he like though, Pete? Was Paul? Because I met him once. I think I said to you guys, he had the guy who was with was his minder.
Right.
And you don't have a minder unless you think you're going to need a minder.
That must have been back in 1980 or something then.
No, it was. I'll tell you, it was 90. Hang on. 2000.
2000. That was me then.
He played with Salisbury at the Black Pig in Salisbury.
Oh, that was He'd moved
and
to Salisbury by then. Yeah.
He came to see it.
My main time with Paul, I did two stints with Paul because my friend was the bass player who got involved with Paul, and he said, "Our drummer's crap. We got a Austrian tour. I don't know why Austria, but so we had this Austrian tour, and all I can remember was that Robin will know this guy as well. His manager was Lee Hart. Would you know Lee?
Passway.
Yeah, that's right. So
in fact,
Lee
I'm
was
wearing a Sammy
right.
Colour.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
Passway did the soundtrack.
That's right. Yeah. So what Lee did was he tried to change Paul's whole commercial direction and take it away from the Iron Maiden, and we ended up going and doing these shows abroad. And this is, I want to say, about just before 2000, I think. And so he said, well, I see Paul as an artist that we want to get into the main media. I see him more as Roachford was quite big at the time. And Roachford, he said, I see Paul more as a Roachford, and it was deadly serious. We had a set of music that we had to learn. Pardon?
Is it Paul Diano the wrong colour to be?
Could he dance? Could he dance?
He hasn't got any cuddly toys either.
Don't be stupid. But anyway, we ended up. One of the songs I remember doing. We did at the end. We did Murders in the Rue Morgue, Running Free, Phantom of the Opera. But during this set, I can remember one gig where it was full of hairy ass bikers. From front to back. It was absolutely jam-packed. I'm not joking. We are playing Living in America, right?
That by Roachford.
By James Brown, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We did play that funky music. I'm not joking. This is so bizarre. And I can remember being a lot younger then. This was quite a big gig for me. Like Robin said, working with Bruce, this was like, I bought the first Iron Maiden album and it was life-changing for me. And so we played this gig. And because I was quite young then, one of the things that I'd always thought that I'd like to do was throw my drumsticks into the crowd, And I'm not joking. Someone threw them back.
No.
Then that ironed itself out where we started doing other stuff. And then I got back involved with Paul around about 2000, 2001. And Paul was quite notorious, but he was always, Paul was quite a bright guy, but he was, he liked to live by that beast reputation, if you like. And I can remember playing, as Robbie mentioned, Wackham Festival.
Yeah.
And there was, I'm going to say 40,000 people, hands in the air like this, a real big deal. And we're basically playing from start to finish the first 2 Iron Maiden albums, or all the main songs, finishing in Phantom of the Opera. We had a fantastic gig, and he was lauded, absolutely lauded. They loved him. The encore went on and on and on, and we came off stage and we were sharing one of these long trailers with Saxon. So they were on later, and they just arrived, and we were sort of doing, hanging around with them. And the guy, we were obviously reveling in our own glory at the time. And the guy who owned the festival used to go around the site, and it was, massive site, but he'd go around checking on everyone on a moped. So he came to the Saxon and Killers. We were Killers then. To the Killers dressing thing, and he said to Lee Hart, did you guys have a good show? And Paul interrupted Lee, came out and he went, "You've just had the best fucking band you'll ever have at this fucking festival ever." And this guy literally, looked at Paul, started his moped up and drove off. Didn't say anything.
The manager spoken.
Just disappeared into the distance. We were like, oh, that went well. Yeah. And there was a lot of, Paul was, like I said, he was very intelligent, but he lived by reputation. So he wanted to be the bad guy, and there were many instances where he'd stopped a song, leapt into the crowd and punched someone in the face. And we had an instance in, I'm going to say Croatia or somewhere like that, where there was a guy staring and was not kind of taking part in the audience. And Paul started to single him out a bit, to the point where he leapt off the stage and tried to punch him. I think it missed him, but it turned out afterwards that this guy was autistic and had some problems. So it's, quite a sad deal. There was another time where we played at the Camden Underworld, and Paul forgot his lyrics, so he stopped the song and punched someone in the face in the audience as well. And we couldn't do anything about it. We just stopped and go.
No excuse, though, is it?
I've got a quick one with Bruce's lyrics. I walked in the dressing room and he's doing this. I'm like, Bruce, what are you doing? And he goes, lyrics. Like this. So he when he does the whole sort of, fly on your wing like an eagle, the whole thing like that, and really he's going.
Oh, brilliant.
And I took the picture. Somewhere I've got some proof, some damning proof that, Bruce Dickinson writes lyrics on his hand.
Fantastic.
I thought that was quite good. He didn't punch anyone, though.
No.
No, but like Robin, I was, 1980, I was 13 when that, I think the first Maiden album came out, about 80, 79, something like that.
Yeah.
It was a life changer for me. And then you go on to my mid-20s when I ended up playing with Paul. It was a dream come true. I was, even the first rehearsal when we went into Wrathchild, I couldn't believe that I was here listening to Paul Di'Anno sing Wrathchild, and I was playing the fucking drums.
You see, that's a tough gig, because Clive, I mean, this is the linked conversation, really. Clive was an incredible drummer.
Yeah.
I mean, he's so tight. I mean, almost like a jazz player in some ways, but he was so hard hitting and tight. I mean, that for me, respect to you, because those are tough songs to play.
Well, I
think he's like
simplified
the
them,
greatest-
Jeff, obviously.
I think he's like the greatest punk drummer. You know what I mean? You say jazz, but like, you know, to me, anyone who does 16s with one hand.
I agree, especially on
Well,
Wrathchild. How do you
Rothschild's
do
my
that?
favorite songs, and I've always, you know, and he's like,
Yeah,
you
playing,
know, and
playing it like that.
it's just singles, and he's like Ramones. You know what I mean? He's just absolutely. I mean, you know, Clive. I mean, we did a few Clive Aid shows.
Yeah.
When I was playing with Bernie Tormey and John McCoy in a band called GMT, which is Guy McCoy Tormey, and we, you know, we do, and I got, you know, pals with Clive. I interviewed him and stuff, and it's just amazing. And we managed to sell his. I said to him, "What have you done with your kit, your Number of the Beast kit?" And he went, "It's in my garage, Rob." I went, "What are you going to do with it?" He goes, "I said, what's happening with it?" He goes, "It's a home to spiders." I went, "What do you want to do?" He goes, "I don't know." I said, "Well, we should get it on display in the Hard Rock Hell."
I remember you rescuing it.
So me and a guy called
Yeah.
Sam Hill, who's a mate of mine who's promoted shows and that, we managed to, you know, get in touch with the memorabilia department of Hard Rock Cafe, which is in Orlando, and managed to. We managed to sell it to them for $20,000,
Wow.
whatever it was, and we got Clive a check for, you know, 10 grand or whatever it was, 20 grand, and we did the launch. I got to set it up in the Hard
Right.
Rock Hell Cafe in Piccadilly or wherever it is, on this, you know, riser thing, and you know, they printed a head for it specially, and I had to set it up how Clive with the two toms up there, you know, absolutely amazing. This, you know, this Tama kit, and it was just amazing. And Clive was there, Tony Iommi,
Deep Purple.
Ian Pace.
Deep Purple.
Ian Pace was Clive's hero that he'd never met.
Wow.
So mind blowing. So there's a picture of us holding the check, and there's me, there's Bruce, there's Adrian Smith, there's I think Yannick, there's Tony Iommi, and this was exactly the time when Ozzy Sharon Osbourne was pelting Iron Maiden with fruit and ripping them off, and you're thinking, God, there's going to be some crazy beef between Iommi and Bruce, you know, and they're all just pals, they're gentlemen, you know, like a load of bollocks, and it was just mind blowing. All these they're literally gods of metal, and me, you know, on this stage presenting Clive in a wheelchair with a check. I've set up this blooming Number of the Beast kit. I mean, there's so many. It's weird because, like, when you said, you know, how did the Bruce thing go, whatever, and you go, oh yeah, I did a bunch of shows and it was great, and then you realize all these other little crazy Maiden connection, whether it's with Clive, whether it's with Clive Aid, you know, and it's like a kind of family thing that, you know, we've all got crazy stories, and it's really amazing how it sort of permeated and done all that. And for me, you know, to hang out with Clive Burr, you know, and talk with him about his drums. I've got an interview somewhere, and it's just, you know, it's amazing. I went to his house, and, you know, he's got these iron gates with the sort of silhouettes of all Iron Maiden on. You know, it's just like mind blowing.
Wow.
You know,
Cool.
I was there that night, Robin.
Huh?
Me and Adrian. Yeah, I was there that night with Adrian and the Hard Rock.
It's amazing, man. Yeah. So what? Yeah. Were you there with what, Kilt to This or something, or?
I think I was there with Mark and Simon from Kiltis, but Adrian was there. And that's when you had your hair, wasn't it? Like all leopard print.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I remember. Yeah, because Mark and the gang was there. Again, it's like it's the rock and roll metal community. You know.
I remember you came up to me and said, "Can you take a picture of me and Clive? And you give me the camera."
Because you're the singer, right?
That's great. That's so sharp. That is so sharp.
Good memories, man. You know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
what I did want to say, just for the record, because I've painted Paul in quite a notorious light, is that he was also a lovely guy, and I have such fond memories of the times that I had with him as a mate, as much as anything, aside from the notoriety. And the other guys in the band, who I'm sure Robin knows from London, which would be Cliff Evans. I think he played in Sacktrick, and Darius Kay. We had a very good
from Tight with Love Boys.
That's right. Yeah. But we had a very good brotherhood. We spent a lot of time together, and you know, that includes Paul. he was a lovely guy when he wasn't trying to be someone else, you know. And obviously, playing those songs was, you know, dream come true for me. Absolutely.
Did you feel that he liked doing the songs and still got a buzz, or was he kind of like, oh, I'm known as the Maiden guy, I've got to do these things and get through it? Or, you know, was there any kind of...
It was, do you know what? It was hard to tell because obviously he was out there. He knew that was the only way he could make a living.
That's
you know?
what I mean.
Yeah. And a lot of the times we had to play everything faster than it could be, you know, because he'd always say, oh, well, I like it more punky. So we'd always end up playing it faster. And sometimes he'd say, oh, I can't stand playing this shit. And other times he'd be all right by it, you know, and you couldn't really gauge what he actually felt or meant, you know, because obviously he was earning decent money for it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few clips here and there where, you know, someone's either heckled or he's gone into a sort of bit of a slagging Bruce off, going, oh, yeah, the air raid, sorry. And you go, well, whatever, you know, I can appreciate anyone who kind of gets fired out of band that then goes literally nuclear. You know, you're going to be a bit knocked and, you know, you're going to have a bit of beef or whatever. But I don't know, you know, you kind of think, well, I don't know, what's his angle, you know?
He's still part of the legacy, though, isn't he? This is the thing.
Yeah,
he is.
He is part of that story, and no one should forget that, you know. And I think whatever anyone talks about anything, is that, you know, if we were talking about Motley Crue, you know, it would, you know, we talk about Vince leaving and Karabi coming in. He's part of that story.
Yeah.
So, we've got 3 minutes, by the way. 3 minutes.
Well, we'll have to. It will just go and come back in.
Okay.
But he was part of that, and I think that's why he shouldn't be forgotten. You know, it's a bit like
for a band to be together for 45 years. This is what I found. I don't know the same for you guys. Is that he had an important part of Maiden, an impossible part. But you see, what you'll find is from meeting the fans was that people would say to me, "What's your favourite Maiden album?" Or that I'd say to them, "What's your favourite Maiden album?" They'd say Virtual 11, and it's like, have you not heard Killers?
Yeah.
Have you not heard none of these? But you know, you've got different generations living that band.
Yeah.
So the things that made it special to us, which I totally have, you know, the kinship with what Robin was saying. I can remember when Peace of Mind came out, and I couldn't believe Eddie had lost his hair. Now look what's happened. You know, and that was the thing. Being a Maiden fan was all encompassing. It was from the moment you got up to the moment you went to bed, and through the generations, it's the same. Whether you're, you know, Pete with Killers, me with None of These, you with Killers, Robin.
Yeah.
And there'll be people who were into them from Matter of Life or Death or whatever, you know, the newer stuff. It's just they've got an incredible career.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think this is the thing with all of it. You know, obviously, so it's like we were saying about people being a part. Like Blaze, obviously, had a massive part in that story as well, which we will talk to about, Jeff, because we need to. But going back to what Pete was saying about Di'Anno jumping out into a crowd and punching someone, I saw Wolfsbane playing a small venue down in Cornwall, and this guy was chucked a pint at Blaze, and he got off the stage and he lumped him one. And it's like during the middle of I Like It Hot as well. It's like, come on, that's one of their best songs. What are you doing that for? You know,
Yes, he deserved it though. You know, you've got to look after yourself.
Yeah.
What venue was it, 12?
Sorry.
What venue was it in Cornwall?
It was the Cornwall Coliseum, which actually Jeff and I talked about. They were supporting Alice Cooper, and I got to meet Blaze afterwards. And he was a genuinely lovely, lovely guy. He actually gave me 10 quid for a T-shirt because I didn't have any change.
No way.
Yes, mate. And I still got a T-shirt. Yeah, and he signed it, everything. It's just legend. Absolute legend.
I saw him on Saturday. He was asking about that.
Did he? Did he ask for his 10 quid back?
You know, he said, to be honest, with interest, it's about £14.80 now.
He took it out of Jeff's packet, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I reckon so.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yes.
Blaze, Jeff, come on, man.
Yeah, let's dial in with Blaze.
So I was a huge fan of until I think Seventh Son it started going off for me. But until then, I saw him every tour. I've got, you know, the whole catalogue, original singles. I got the Soundhouse tapes. I was a big fan. bedroom, just totally obsessed with Maiden, memorabilia, everything. Roll on, you get into other music, and you go through the cruise, and then I was saying to Kelvin in our chat that when I was growing up, you could like Maiden, Metallica, Motley Crue, Radiohead, whatever. It was music, was rock. Whereas now it's become, I think I was saying in our chat again, there's death metal, vegan vegetarian, lesbian death metal. But back then you could just like what you liked, and I can remember liking Love Hate and all these. Anyway, I go through the different bands I was in, and I left. I've been in Kill to This, and we'd been touring really hard, and we were getting massive tours with Megadeth and all those sort of bands. And I got to the point where I thought I can't do this anymore because it was costing us so much to do, and we weren't actually getting anywhere. And so I sort of jumped off ship. And sorry, mate, just sort myself out. Anyway, so Andy Sneap rang me up one day, and he just said, I know Blaze had been fired, for want of a better word, from Maiden, which was always going to happen. And I wasn't a fan of those 2 albums. I just thought it wasn't actually Blaze's fault, and there's some good songs on there, but the production was shocking, and the drumming as well. Just in general, the production was terrible, and I think that was probably down to Steve Harris, taking the duties. So Andy Sneap rang me up. He said, because I'd worked with him Kill to This, and he said, I'm doing a project, just wondering if you want to come and drum on these demos. And I said, who is it? He went, it's Blaze Bayley. And originally I was in this, I didn't know I was going to go back into music. And I kind of went, nah, don't want to do it. He goes, oh, come and do it. So I went down and did these demos, and I met his band, and he got all these people from Kerrang, he put a little advert in, and it was like sort of newbies. And there were 3 fantastic players, John Slater, Steve Ray, Rob Naylor. They were amazing players, and we gelled, and that was it then. We were together. Long story short, we did demos, and we recorded an album. We were with Sanctuary. Then we went out and we toured from 99 through to when I left in 2002, fairly constantly. Big festivals, Wacken again. We did in our first gig was Wacken actually, and we went back 2002, I think. Did main stage again, and then we toured with Halloween. We toured with Sabotage, Overkill. And we did a lot of headlining, like we'd go and play right through Europe for 10 weeks. Went to Brazil for the first time. We did 8 shows, which was amazing, with 25 flights in 2 weeks. And it was big there. It was incredible. And the problem I had was, on the negative of all the positives really, is that I didn't see very much eye to eye with him. I think at the time, Sanctuary suppressed the band because they wanted Brave New World to come out, and they didn't want Silicon Messiah, which was very well received by the press, to take it away. And they just made it very difficult for us. Tours were getting dropped. Then we did go on tour. The record label was difficult with SPV. And I think he never got a good shot at it, really, unfortunately.
Jeff, the same thing kind of happened with Skunkworks.
Yeah.
Because when I was talking to my friend, my housemate, Chris Dale.
I spoke to him last week, by the way.
Huh?
I spoke to Chris last week.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah, because I watched the Bruce documentary and I just got in touch with him. What a lovely guy he is.
Stream from his Sarajevo.
Yeah, just had a nice chat with him.
It's insane. You came around my house and played it. I was just in tears. It's like, if you can go and see that video, DVD, Blu-ray, go and buy it and watch it. It's absolutely mental. And it's just the story of like Bruce Dickinson band, Skunkworks, going over to play a gig in Sarajevo in the middle of a war and getting smuggled in armored carriers and in the night, and it's absolutely mental. But yeah, basically what you said, I was just thinking, oh my God, I've heard this exactly verbatim. And it was obviously, if you're the manager of Iron Maiden, that's your golden egg, that's your cash cow. And so in a way that you've kind of got to kind of ruin Bruce's career or Blaze's career or whatever, so that you can get they're all back in Maiden and get the dollars back, whatever, And so it's the same thing with Chris. He was told by the management, hey, you're going to go on tour for the rest of the year. You're going to save a lot of money if you get rid of your flat. You don't need to pay rent. You're going to be on a tour bus. And 6 weeks later, the tour's cancelled, and they're like, shit, we're screwed. And you look at, you look at history, those bands didn't make it big and Bruce went back to Maiden. It's kind of, it writes itself. And was that the management's fault? Was that the fans? Was it Bruce's decision?
Management
You know
easily.
what I mean? I don't know. It's not my place to say. But when you said that, I was like, oh my God, this is exactly the same thing as what Chris told me about how Skunkworks was managed. Because of course, guess what? They're all being managed by the same people, you know.
Well, we got better when we left. When we left Sanctuary, basically. But what happened was, I think, because I was quite experienced. Luckily, I was very lucky, and I think he didn't particularly like that because he wanted almost like a Virgin band. We didn't. I think he took all the money which he got from Maiden, he pumped it into the band, and it became very difficult. And I think when I look back, I read a book actually that someone wrote about us, and I didn't know half the stuff that went on. I really didn't, being in that bubble. And I think I really fell out with Blaze, and I regret that massively now because he's a good guy. He's incredibly lucky to have been in the biggest band in the world and in the sort of rough deck of cards, you know. And I think we're okay now. But on the positive, I thought the albums were great that we did together. I think we honed ourselves as a very tight, energetic band. The friendship I had with John, Steve, and Rob is here to this day because we experienced, you know, if you'd said to us at 13, you'd go playing in Sao Paulo to a sold out, 5,000 people, and you just wouldn't believe it. And we were all lucky to have done great gigs, and I've obviously in our careers with other bands too. But the thing I remember was it just felt like us against the world. And we went on tour with Halloween, and what we did was we had this real ethic. And one thing I do remember was very professional, very even to the point of he said, when Maiden have photographs, he says what they do is, and you probably look back at the photographs now. I don't know if Bruce said this to you. He said they tell you to stick your tongue at the top of your mouth. And you'll see, when you look at it, it's a really weird one. When you look at it now, you'll think, well, that's what they're doing. And it forms jaw better or something. But anyway, I digress. They're very professional. And what we did was, Johnny Allen, who was, so Johnny was on tour with us and he said, right, this is Halloween stage and this is your stage. Can we do whatever we want with it? Yeah. So we used to get all the old big flight cases out and we used to make a stage. And we used to drive him mad because Blaze would be all over the place. Really, pretty much every night we'd absolutely hammer Halloween, which was fantastic for us. There's one night in, I think we were in a place called Alaves in Spain, and we're playing like this huge discotheque. And Blaze was off on one, and he got on top of the PA at about song 2, and he was singing from in the lighting rig. And then it got to the end of the song and he just saw his little leg sticking out. He couldn't get back onto the PA and he had to do the whole set from the lighting rig.
The whole set?
Yeah. And at the end, we finished the gig and these two bouncers come up, shoved everyone out of the way, got a ladder and he just got down and went to the bus.
That's Spinal Tap, isn't it, Jeff?
And then there was one gig in Madrid. I don't know if you know it, the Riviera. It's like a massive one in around by the river. And again, it was on Halloween tour, and he was off with his mic, and he ran off the stage right around the back of the hall, not realizing that he was then out of time because he was not hearing what was on the stage.
Man. Yeah.
But it was just good fun. I remember one night we were so honed. We'd done about 60 shows one after another, and we were at Z7 in Prattle. You remember that one?
Yeah.
And it was a headline gig. We had a big stage set. And I had the big cage, double bass drum timer, all that stuff. And the intro tape goes off. And I thought, I've done this song 59 times in a row with it open. How does it start? And we've had that when you just totally head on.
Yeah.
So Rob, our bass player, comes out. He's like that because he's been on the pop. And he comes out and I went, Rob! And he turned around and he went, what? He says, how does this one start? And he went, 1, 2, 3, 4, and walked off.
I actually, how about this one then, from a drummer's perspective? Do you ever, like a bit like that, your head goes and you're midway through a song and you don't know where you are in the song? Is this the chorus? Is this the first chorus or the third chorus? Where are we?
I play a lot to click, and I found, I just found I haven't had that problem. The only difference with getting older is before I couldn't wait to get on stage, now I can't wait to get off.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same. But I do. I'm, you know, and of course when you're playing, and what's going through your head is where are we? You're then asking another band member,
Cardiff.
yeah, where are we? And they don't know what you mean, and they're like, what? What? And it's just a massive confusion, you know.
I remember doing that the Warrior Soul 20th anniversary of Space Age Playboy, which is a great record and one of my favorite bands, and I thought it would be an absolute cakewalk because I'm a big fan. I know them songs. I don't need to rehearse, you know. And then you realize when you start kind of getting to the DNA of the structures and that, you go, I'll give you an example. There's a song called I Want Some. And it starts off with, I want some, I want some, I want some, I want some. And you think, nice, that's 4x4, you know, 4 of them, and maybe another 4, there's 8, you know. That motherfucker does 13 or 12. And then you've got to go a fill and go into into the verse. And so I'm literally going, this is me at the gig. 1, 2, 3, black. I want some. 1, I want some. 2, I want some. 3. I've got my eyes closed because I can't have anything get in my way of like, and I've got to count sober 12. I want some. And as you know, when it's repetition, when you get to about 9 and 11, you're like, is it 10? Is it 12? Is the fill coming in? It's absolute hell. And of course, like, so-called simple rock and roll songs. And he's just got these really, they're not weird arrangements. They're not prog rock, but there's just weird counts like 13. I want some. Why not 16? Why not 12? Why not 8? Come on. And so I've got this massive crib book, you know, and I'm staring down the dry ice, you know, and I'm just like looking at it. And they may as well be hieroglyphics at this point. And I just look up in a different song by now, you know, and I look at the guitarist, I go, where are we? He turns around and goes, and I go, brilliant. I'm just doing this. And, you know,
great.
That's a professional blaggering, man. You know, it's
great. Yeah, where are we?
We all know this. When you're in a band and you've done a long tour, or you're in the middle of whatever you're doing. There is, when you get it right and you're in the zone, it's amazing, you know. And we had a lot of that with Blaze. For me, my head towards the end, it just gone. I couldn't see it. I do that. I find in bands I've been in, I get to a point and I go, right, where am I going here? And for me, I just was really not getting on with what their plans were. And I had to make a toss up between sort of losing my best friends in the band and you know, so I made the jump, and it was probably the right thing to do at the time. But massively proud.
Do you find, because like you said, a lot of your stuff, or the majority or even all of it, is click based, right? Do you find that kind of, I won't say, you know, adds to it potentially being affecting you to the point of what you just said, where you're zoning out, you're bored, because the click kind of steers you, you know, you're on autopilot and you're kind of filling in the beats, or you know what I mean? Because obviously, you know, say the flip side of that is me, you know, playing in, say, Sham 69 or Warrior Soul and in Rachel Stamp. There's no click, it's just live rock and roll. So you kind of, you can zone out and you can take back on a back seat and go, I've done this song a million times. But you're also, if I speed up, that's going to push them. If I drag it back, make it heavier. So, you know, you're a bit more engaged. Do you think that the click kind of almost takes you out of the picture a bit as a human?
Well, Blaze wasn't too. We did a couple of songs to click in Blaze, and my current band, Ride Down Bride, is not. I do use clicks for me live. It doesn't come in the band, just to keep everything in more tempo wise. It starts with songs actually, but with I found with Paradise Lost and with Kill This, which I'm still with, I play around the click. I play completely. It's not a case of. To me, it's still a groove. You can still groove, and the secret to that is not to have it too loud in your mix. So, you're aware of where things are, but you're still grooving. You know.
Same for me. I have the click. I have the click in my in-ears, and there are times during the set where sometimes I have to take a couple of seconds to check that I'm in with the click, because it's just in the back of my head, nowhere else. And you don't hear it, but it steers you. So you're just playing, and there are, I think it comes with experience, there are a lot of drummers that have it way, way too loud. And I think that's where it impinges you more than anything, you know.
Here's the thing. I think I might have done this one before. I told Kelvin we were playing a gig with Prodigy in Austria, and we were late. This is a Paradise Lost, and our monitor engineer Dave Monk, he's proper mank. We used to say he was like he lived in the war. He'd have a cup of camp coffee and all that. And we got on stage, we were panicking, and I texted myself, and I put my in-ears on, and he went, "Hey Jeff, do your in-ears, mate. Do your in-ears, right?" I'm doing a cockney there, so it was like a mank anyway. And I said, "So put my in-ears on," and I just heard this, and I went, "Dave, they're buzzing," and he went, "Nice one, bass."
They're buzzing. That's good. I like it.
That's awesome.
That's
awesome.
How are you coping, Robbie? You doing all right? You still with us?
Yeah, the Holston Pills is keeping him going very well.
It's kicking him going. It's kicking him going.
Yeah. Right.
I think in-ears are a funny thing. I'm obviously a lot of people use them, but where you have that, I mean, I've always loved the energy on stage when you've got, you know, a wedge next to you and everything's wrapped up, because I just like the general feel on stage from everybody. And when I've played with cans on, I've always found it that it just takes that energy out, and it kind of loses that, because it's that silence I don't like. I like that.
I know exactly what you mean. I think again, it probably comes with experience. I wear with one band that I play with, I'm to a click, so I have to wear in-ears. But with Vega, I'm not to a click, because I've got a lot more to pitch harmony wise and whatnot. But I still wear headphones, because I need to look after my ears, and I think a lot of the time in-ears are saving people's hearing as much as anything. You know?
I played with the Clicks since 1996 when we used to take out, I used to take out 4-track, like huge thing.
So did I.
With a cassette.
With a cassette, yeah.
But I mean, here's a question for you guys. As we got, for want of a better word, more successful in your career and you gigged more, I think again, it's something I touched on with Kel before. I felt that my drumming went downhill, because yes, you were out gigging every night, but you weren't in your bedroom playing or rehearsing with your band 3 times a week, honing your skill. You would be gig day off, gig day off, 2 months, go home, stroke the cat, go back out, gig day off. And I think for me, I look back at stuff I did in the 90s and 2000s and think, Christ, how did I play that?
Yeah.
And
I know. I think I agree, but I think it's a different way of explaining it. I think it's almost like the you know, when you're on the way up and you're 17, you're putting 1 million fills in, you got 1,000 toms or whatever it is, and you're 26 and you're doing a first radio show, or you're playing a headline, and you know, everything's a new experience. I remember with Rachel Stamp, you know, we you know, I joined the band when they just lost a deal, and they couldn't get signed because they got the stigma in the industry that they must have been rubbish because it sold no records because they lost a deal. In fact, the A&R man who signed them a couple of months later, he left Warner Brothers, and he said to them, "Hey, leave the deal and come with me, and I'll get you a new deal, or stay with Warner Brothers." And they're like, "Screw you, we've just got a deal," you know, because back then it was about the deal, man. And so I came in, and they were like, "Oh man, what are we going to do?" I was like, "We got a tour," and we just toured. We became a touring beast, you know, and we toured with everyone. And so we went through every single toilet level, club level, theater level, and sold it out. So we did the Barfly tour, we sold it out. We did the, you know, the Borderline, we sold it out. Then we did the Underworld, sold it out. Then the Garage, then the LA2, and then eventually took a deep breath, and we 20 people short of selling out the London Astoria, which holds 2,000 people. And the only people who played out are like Typo Negative, Rancid, Soulfly, you know, big bands with big deals and big crews and big buses. And we rolled in with a bunch of homies, like setting up our gear and, you know, and did it hand to mouth. And so on the way up, you haven't got time to look around. You're just eating it up like Pac-Man, you know, you just kind of, it's all mega exciting and everything's a new level. And then when you kind of, not saying plateau, but like you kind of maybe turn the page and you actually go, "Oh, I'm doing this professionally," or "My gigs are getting bigger," or I know what I'm doing now, you know, or I've got this endorsement, or I know how this drum tunes, or I know how the press agents work. I know how press works. I know how agents work. I know what to do on a tour rather than getting wankered every night. You know, I know how to sustain. I know how to practice to warm up. And so it becomes more of a proper job or an actual job. And in a way that kind of takes the, you know, the pizzazz out of it on one level. If you're not careful, like what you're saying, Jeff, I think it's like, but you sort of used it as an example where your playing goes downhill. Whereas if you compare, say, what I was doing with, say, Martin Grech, which was like a crazy solo artist, that was like some of the most insane playing I've ever done. And I'm not really the odd time signature guy, you know. And this was some odd time signature stuff, some stuff with click, a lot of jungle beats, and you know, I had a full kit, piccolo, loads of stuff, and we played supported Muse at Wembley Arena. It was brilliant. But then compare that to, say, Sham 69, one rack tom, one floor tom, one crash wide, one crash, one China, boom, let's go, kill it, live, no click, balls out of the bath, let's have it. It's two completely different beasts, but you know, and I don't really know what I'm saying, but it's kind of like, you know, yeah, my drumming, you could say, is simplistic now, or with Sham, it's simpler than some of the crazy stuff like what you were saying, Jeffrey, earlier. You're like, oh my God, I was 18. How the hell did I do that? You know, mega fills, mega speed, mega technique. But I think it's kind of like, you know, you the way I see it is like, you know, I'm drumming, I'm loving drumming, I'm loving getting on stage and feeling the raw, whether it's with, you know, a small band, like, you know, playing a club like the Fiascos, playing punk rock and roll, Rachel Stamp playing, you know, mid clubs, theaters or whatever, or Sham 69 headlining big punk festivals, or the Bruce thing. It's rock and roll, it's drumming, it's your heartbeat, your blood's pumping. And the way I attack it is just like, this is what I want to do. I'm in the moment. I never go, oh, that song with Sham 69 is a bit simple compared to, you know, imagine if I was playing an AC/DC, all their songs are freaking simple, but they played a small gig for them is 60,000 people on a quiet Tuesday. What are you going to do? You're going to be like, oh yeah, my playing's gone downhill since I left Muse and joined AC/DC, or Blaze and joined AC/DC. Rolling Stones. I mean, you know, to me, that's really what I'd say. You know, it's all rock and roll, baby. You know.
Did you hear about when Simon Wright, the drummer? You think he plays in UFO, doesn't he, or something? But he, you know, he's from Hazel Grove, which is Stockport near me. And he said he was in a band called A to Z. He used to play with Maiden in the days of.
I saw them.
Yeah. So I used to be do some session work with Dave, the guitarist, and he was saying that when they split up, the record label. This guy at the record label said, "Looking Sounds." There's a little advert. This is what must be 1980, 81. And he said, 82. And there was a site, rock and roll band requires drummer. And he said, so he answered it. He says, right. And he got taken. He said, you need to be in a warehouse in London. He says, there'll be a drum kit there. Just turn up. And he said, so he went there and there was just a drum kit. And the guy says, I'm just going to play this song on the PA. So he played it. I think it was some Zeppelin. And he just played along. He said, okay, went off. And they rang him back. So could you just come back again? And there was a drum kit in the middle of the room. And he said, just play to this song. And it was AC/DC. He was playing along to some AC/DC. And then they stopped the song. And then AC/DC walked out. And they got the gig.
How awesome. Fly on the Wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. I actually love that album.
Yeah. But I forgot a great story, actually. I must tell you before we start. So the Christmas 2000, we just released Silicon Messiah, the first album with Blaze. And we're playing at Camden Underworld, which is what I remembered. And Blaze comes in the dressing room. He says, there was me and the two guitar players and Blaze. He said, right, Steve's coming tonight. Steve who? Steve Harris. Right, okay. He's going to play a song with us. It's amazing. Yeah. He said, so anyway, then Rob walks in, the bass player. He says, what's going on? Always look shocked. And I said, well, it's really, really good. Steve Harris is coming down tonight to play with us. Brilliant. He said, can we use your amp? It looked like utter devastation.
Did he play, and what did he play?
We played Man on the Edge together. It was great. Yeah, he's a lovely guy, Steve. Yeah, lovely.
He's a workhorse, though.
Well, he was in Manchester on Monday with his band British Lion.
I like British Lion are good. I like British Lion.
Yeah, my mate owns the club he played. He said he just sat talking memorabilia and, with him. Apparently, he said something. No, I better not say that. It's libelous. I can't tell you that. Yeah, but yeah, he's just a very down to earth guy, isn't he? He's still at it, and he's still got hair.
Jeff, did Blaze tell you any Maiden stories and stuff? Like was he sort of, what was his general? If you could sum up his general vibe, was he bitter? Was he happy?
No, I think he said, he always said, if someone has said you're being the biggest band in the world, just take it. But what he told me, which always sticks with me, which makes me giggle, he said, well, the bad stuff was all, you can't do what Bruce does. And I don't know how he did it. Not just the pitch and tone, but the schedule. And I heard some horrific stories about that, about him and his having to have injections and all that sort of shit. But he said there was one gig he did in some like Chile or Argentina, and it was to like 100,000 people or whatever. And he said he was absolutely cacking it. And he said that just before he went on, he got 2 cans of Red Bull and he just shot them down, shot these 2 cans of Red Bull, run out on stage, there's 100,000 people raw. And he said he just collapsed because he just had adrenaline rush, just spazzed him out. He's just on the deck.
Wow.
Did he come back and do the gig and wake up?
Oh, yeah. But the one thing he instilled, and I still saw it with him on Saturday night as a punter, was he really appreciates the fans. And I think he, he's not everyone's cup of tea, whatever, and it's, but he gives it all. He's good at what he does, and he really appreciates that people are there and making the effort, because he's hit rock bottom, and he's making his way back up. So good luck to him.
I think the strangest thing when I found out, when Bruce quit Maiden, they got a new singer and all that. And obviously, I'm always erring on the side of positivity, because if you can't change it, there's no point in bitching about it. So you go, okay, Bruce is gone. Who's the new guy? And when they announced Blaze, obviously, I'm a Wolfsbane fan, and they're like street rock and roll punk metal. And so I actually thought, I don't know about you guys, but my train of thought was like, oh my God, it's tragic or shame that Bruce is gone, but he's gone, so move on, let's deal with what we got. So Blaze from Wolfsbane's the new singer. This means they're going to go back to 3.5 minute punky Iron Maiden Killers Paul Di'Anno vibe, because we know he's not got the operatic thing. He's more of a like, grit and blood and spit and sawdust kind of guy. And I kind of thought, okay, this is cool. This is going to be a turn to the old school. And what do they freaking do? They go more prog than ever.
I thought exactly the same. I thought exactly the same.
And it doesn't matter about the album. There's songs on there, like you said, there's some really great songs. Klansman's awesome. Sign of the Cross. There's some really good Maiden. So, and the fact that, again, going back to what Bruce is a gentleman, the fact that he hasn't thrown his toys out the pram and go, I'm not doing anything off those albums, which that Vince Neil's never going to sing anything off Motley Crue. He's never going to do a Karabai number. You know what I'm saying?
That's because he can't sing anymore.
Yeah, but another example would be Dave Lee Roth's never going to do, Why Can't This Be Love? Obviously, he's not going to do anything now, but you know what I'm saying? He's not going to touch any Hagar stuff, but Hagar touched the Van Halen. So my point is like, I thought like, and Bruce does the Klansman and maybe another one, I can't remember, and that's great, and they do great versions of it in the same way he does Murders in the Rue Morgue and Rothschild.
I heard today on Wyatt Wendell's show on classic, on what's it called, the Rock Radio,
Planet Rock.
Yeah, that's the one. That's what I said. He played The Prisoner, and it just sounds as fresh today as it did in 1982, which is incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, that's still for me. Although, I mean, I kind of, I've always liked Maiden, but I went off Maiden after Number of the Beast, because I think Peace of Mind was the next album after that, wasn't it? I did really like that, but for me, I loved the first 2 Iron Maiden albums because I loved Paul's voice on it, everything about those albums. It was almost, when the Number of the Beast was released, it was 2 different bands.
Totally.
And that album still to me is a masterpiece from start to finish. A Number of the Beast. Yeah.
It's an amazing album.
Raiders, are you sure about that?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think.
Boo-biddy-bidoo. I mean, come on, that's not.
Yeah, all right. Let's miss that one off. Then.
Well, you said from start to finish is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Somewhere in Time is a masterpiece.
I'll take that. I will take that.
Somewhere in Time is a great album.
I love Number of the Beast with the fact it's got just some of the biggest songs ever.
Yeah.
The fact that the solo in Number of the Beast you can sing is just the greatest.
Yeah.
It's up there, Power Slave and the solo in Power Slave and the solo in Number of the Beast. That's as near as you're going to get to heaven for me. You know what I mean?
But going on the journey, Rob, going on that journey as a kid, and I think you had Kerrang. You used to wait for sounds and Kerrang. It wasn't instant internet, and you build up a picture. You follow that band through the tour. They're doing 375 dates on Power Slave. They're doing the biggest Norma Domes, and you're part of that because that's your band. They made you feel like they were your band, and you went on that journey. And that was incredible. And again, something Kelvin I spoke about on our chat was that now with my kids or whatever, it's all instant. We spoke about this earlier too.
Yeah.
It's instant. There's no build up. There's no, I'm getting Kerrang and there's a flex and they're releasing the song early and it's
it's the build up. It's exactly what you said. It's the build up. And like when I answered it earlier about like, pocket money and saving up for, BMX or mucking out the chickens, whatever. It makes you really, when you get that item that you've waited for, I don't know, a month for the Maiden release or 3 months for the BMX or 3 years or whatever it is, you don't treat it like crap. You worship it. And we would go in the 5th year in school, secondary school, and one of the guys had the Power Slave record. And every day we'd come back to school and go, I've seen a new bit of graffiti.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. It says no shit or it says bollocks. And these are the first swear words. We're like, oh my God, it's amazing, And I've seen a little face and we're like, where is it? And give me that cover. And we'll mug over the cover and the same thing like Somewhere in Time. I spent months or decades trying to find new graffiti on the Somewhere in Time record and just things like that, magical, and it's you invest yourself in it and reading the liner notes and all the names of the crew and and the middle names of so.
I still do it. I always read all the liner notes on any album that I buy or get given. I'll always
Saxon used 1,000 cans of lager, 3,800 sticks.
Yeah.
Remember that?
20 swimming pools of Coca-Cola, 50 million gallons of beer. The Live After Death thing, just genius. I mean, on the first Rachel Stamp album, when we finally got to be like, okay, you can do your credits and thanks and that. Mine are like this long because I wanted to be like Iron Maiden. I wanted to thank everyone, and I did. Anyone who's ever let me into their club and give me guest lists, and Billy Bob who gave me a beer the other day. And it's just brilliant. And that's my sort of tribute to Maiden because I just like that's what I want. I want people to read this. I want people to sit there and thumb through the reading the stuff while listening to the record.
My first drum kit, Rob, I had a Premier Olympic 4-piece kit.
Yeah.
And I had a pair of Tricks and concert toms, and I had a pair of bongos, and I tied them with shoelaces, sort of like that, because I wanted a kit like Nico's. Yeah,
mine too. I had a single-headed Imperial Star. So like a Tama Imperial Star, which is sort of like slightly off gold or whatever. And I went and got the I guess it was 6, 8 or 8, 10, 12. So it's like and one kick, and I had one crash, one ride, and the hats. But I was like, I've got the drums, I've got the surround sound, the surround kit drums. That was the Nico thing, man. And that's the thing. I mean, again, a bit like what you're saying about Di'Anno and Bruce, 2 different bands, but again, part of the same family, the same Maiden religion, if you will. To me, it's like it's very similar. It's like I love the Di'Anno records, I love the Bruce records. You know what I mean? To pick between Nico and Clive is a tough one because Clive I discovered first, and to me it's very much like that street element, all singles around the kit real fast, and Nico's got the rudiments much more. But again, I love them both. You know what I mean? They're different dudes.
They are different styles, aren't they?
I'm not saying he couldn't. Clive Bird's a ridiculously talented person, but like Ryman Anch and Mariner, that's Nico's. That's Nico drumming. You know what I mean? Whereas Rothschild, that and Murders in the Rue Morgue, man, one of the greatest songs. So good. Them rolls.
Yeah. I do it differently.
And me.
But the beauty is, and the whole point of this chat, because I know we're getting to near the end, is it's brilliant that we've all got together and that we have it. It's a thing with metal and metal fans. It's all about shared meaning, and we've all got that.
Yeah, and drummers too. The whole thing is like, if I say, Jeff, what's that fill you're doing? You're going to show me. You're going to break it down for me. Whereas the
bop, bop, bop.
Kick. But like guitarists are like, I'm not going to show you my riff. Screw you. I'm not going to show you my technique for doing that. Whereas drummers, it's like, hey, take my stuff. I mean, that's, and I think that's beautiful, because I think we're inherently more, I don't know, humble or just a bit more rootsy or grounded, because we've had to load the drums at 4 a.m. in the pissing rain. You know what I mean?
Right. That's right. I'm got to admit it as well.
Yeah. I've got to admit, no one's actually asked me about any of my fills, but they have asked me to take pictures.
Can you take a picture of that, Phil?
There was that night at that Hard Rock Cafe. There's a very famous picture which, within my circles, is I've met Bruce twice, and both times he's turned his back on me when the photo's been taken. Whoa. And I've got a classic photo of me at that night, me like that with Bruce, and him just with his back looking somewhere else.
It's funny you say that, Jeff, because the first time I met him, I was actually 17 in my village pub. In a little village in East Sussex, and I was, obviously howling, and coming back from the toilets, and my friend was facing me, and he's going, and I'm going, and I'm seeing this short ass hippie, like 4 foot something tall, hair down his back, and going, who's this? I'm pretty steaming, pint of whatever it is. I'm going, who's this hippie in my way? And as I slowly go round this short ass hippie, and my mate going, Robert, and I'm like, and I just like jaw drop, and fucking hell, it's Bruce Dickinson in my local pub, which is 30 seconds across the road from my parents' house. And this is a week before they headlined Seventh Son of a Seventh Son down Donington, which is, as you know, 110,000 people, broke all the records and all that crazy stuff. And I was like, what? I just went, Bruce, and of course he's a consummate pro, didn't want to draw attention to himself. Yeah, cool man. How you doing? I went, and he, the first thing he said to me is, I bet you're thinking he's really short, isn't he? And I was going, you're right. I'm going, you're tiny, and I immediately went to the bar and got like a little, an order pad. And he signed it real, down and out of the way. I was thinking, why isn't he going, yes, I'll sign your autograph, everyone, I'm famous. And of course, when you're actually famous and you sign 1 million autographs, you just want to have a quiet pint. So he's like, yeah, there you go. So I've still got that. And then when we were doing the rehearsals in 2002, I said, Bruce, I got a bone to pick with you. He goes, what's that, mate? What's that? And he goes, I'm really surprised you don't recognize me before. And he goes, what do you mean? He goes, well, you've met me before, and they bigged it up to this whole thing. And he went, well, really? Where was it? I went, it was, 30,000 years ago in a little village pub in this tiny little village. And he went, oh, that's right. Because I've got a mate in Lewis, which is 10 miles from this village. I've got a mate in Lewis who does fencing. He's my fencing partner. Because of course, as we know, Bruce is not only a championship singer, a championship airline pilot and all that stuff, but he's also a fencer. And so he was down with his buddy in Lewis, and this guy said, hey, you've got to come to this pub, and rest is history. And then a week later, I'm seeing him on stage go, Seventh Son of a Seventh, and how mental is all that, It's